Prison officers were potted inside of HMP Long Lartin. Now, potted means shitted up, and this is an absolutely degrading act to do to somebody that has absolutely peed you off. Now, there's only one thing worse than getting potted. I mean, coming from a screw's point of view, or a prisoner, because it's not just the screws that get shitted up or potted, it's some inmates. And the only one thing that is worse than getting potted up is getting shitted up by a rapist. Now, this happened in HMP Long Lartin, and it happened in February of last year. And like I mentioned, it is an absolutely degrading thing to do to somebody. And I have actually witnessed this myself when I was in HMP Home House when it happened to a female officer. She was what you would call a man-hater. She shouldn't have been working in the male prisoner state to start with, to be honest. Because when I say she's a man-hater, she didn't like many, well, out of the 80 prisoners that were on the wing, she maybe spoke with one or two. She had a stone face on her. She would go around the wing, just causing an absolute misery, shouting for backup for the male screws to come flying down, to twist people up, and this was the type of deed she used to do. So, one of the lads who was selling a bit of stuff on the wing decided enough was enough. Paid someone 20 quid's worth of spizzle to go and pot her up. She got a bucket of shit and piss, tipped over her head, walked off the wing in disgust, while the rest of the lads were out cheering and laughing. So, that's normally the type of screws that it happens to, the ones that just go out of their way to make your life a misery. But this one was done by a vicious rapist called Ian Ochieng. It's pronounced, it's O-C-H-I-E-N-G. Ochieng was serving a 12-year jail sentence at Long Lartin prison in Evesham when he launched an attack on 2 prison officers. Now, I will go a little bit into it, but I will tell you what they actually use and how they use it. So in situations like this, normally the prisoner or a bunch of prisoners all take turns of going to the toilet in a bucket, passing the feces into a bucket over the course of a week, pissing in it, and then normally they would put either cling film or something over the top. They used to get foil in prison as well, but they used to use cling film from the kitchens so no smell would come out. Give it a mix up, as you can imagine, absolutely honking. Then when the time came, they would go out, take the cling film off, boosh, straight into the screw's face, or a pad. Because if you wanted rid of somebody on the wing, the best way to do it, if you didn't want to attack them on camera, was to go in with a bucket of shit and piss, swill it all over the pad. The pad had to be boxed off, used to be taped off, door shut until the fumigators came in, done the job, and the prisoner would have to move cells. If there was no cells on the wing, which there normally isn't, they would have to get moved off the wing. So that was how they used to get rid of them. So Worcester Crown Court was told that Lewis Heal and Michael O'Hare had been on duty at the Category A prison when Ochieng walked towards them with a bucket from his cell containing urine and faeces. Without warning, Ochieng then poured the contents of the bucket over the 2 men who got faeces and urine in their mouths. Yuck, imagine that. Piss and shit in your gob that had been there for a week. I bet they were spewing all over the place. Prosecutor John Brotherton told the court he approached 2 prison officers. It was captured on CCTV. They were taken to hospital and given injections as a precaution against disease. Mr. Brotherton said the attack in February last year had a devastating impact on both the victims. Well, I bet it did, because imagine, whoa, every time you went to the toilet or went to a public toilet and you smelled it, it would bring back memories of what happened to them. Mr. O'Hare was left feeling unclean and unable to hug his wife and baby for several days, because the smell would have stuck to them in all of the crevices on the face and the ears and the mouths. Yak, absolutely hungering. He continuously worries about when the next assault will be. Mr. Heal says it had an extreme impact on him. Appearing before the court on Tuesday the 4th of November via video link from HMP Wakefield, where he is now being moved to, Ochieng pleaded guilty to 2 charges of administering poison, noxious thing with intent to injure, aggrieve and annoy. So he got sentenced to an additional 2 years in jail to run consecutively to his current sentence. Judge Shonning Gilmore said, "You administered a noxious substance, a mix of urine and feces, which you threw over 2 prison officers. A thoroughly unpleasant experience for both of them, I'm sure. In terms of aggregating features, there were 2 victims. Both of them needed to seek medical advice. Clearly the offences are so serious it passes the custody threshold. Let me be clear, this sentence will be served after your current one." So consecutively means the sentence that you already served, like it's just stated there. He's got a 12-year sentence. That will now be a 14-year sentence. But when you're up in court and you have 2 charges and you get 2 separate sentences, it normally goes concurrent. So for instance, if you get an 8-year sentence, just say for GBH, then you get a 2-year sentence for another GBH with a section 20, one with the intent, one without the intent. You get a 2-year sentence for that one. That one will run concurrent, meaning you don't know, it doesn't mean anything. You're not serving that sentence. It runs alongside that sentence. Consecutively means on top. So I'm just going to go into a little bit about what he was actually in prison for, because he is an absolute horrid piece of shite. Ochieng was convicted of raping 1 woman and SA another following a trial at Worcester Crown Court in 2020. At the time, Avon and Somerset police had described him as every woman's worst nightmare following the vicious attacks. Ochieng of Saltmarsh Drive, Bristol, attacked his victims in Bristol city centre in 2019. Bristol Crown Court sentenced him to 16-year extended sentence with 12 years in custody for the rape and 4.5 years on licence for the SA to run concurrently. So again, that means when he gets out, it's an additional 4 years on top of the already. It's an extended sentence. So 12 years in custody. So he could serve the full 12. That is actually an extended sentence, is actually a parole sentence. He can't get out after serving just over half, I believe. You get paroled. If not, you've got to serve the full 12 years. In his case, because of what he's done, he'll serve the full 12 year. Then he'll have to do 2 year. Then he'll have to do the rest on licence. But he's off the streets for a long time for them horrid attacks. What he done, he is an absolute horrid man. He's in Wakefield. Hopefully he'll get himself a little bit of prison justice, which I do believe will happen, because I've done videos previously about who is the biggest gang in high security prison, and it is the screws. The screws and the governors have got control. Even though a lot of people say the prisoners run it, they do what they want. If they want to get back at someone, believe you me, they will get back at him. Them screws will probably have pals in Wakefield. They'll send a message up saying, is there anything you can do to get back at this horrid rapist? And the screws are more corrupt than out else, like I've just said. They could bring something in and give it to said prisoner and say, get a hold of that wrong'un, and that wrong'un will end up seriously injured. But I might do an updated video actually on these screws and what actually goes on and why I've named them the biggest gang in the high security estate. But I'm going to leave that one there for now, people. And as usual, if you enjoy the content, remember to comment, like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day. And most importantly, stay safe.